Hey guys, Jim here with another video for you. This is kind of a special one-off. It might lead into more, but we'll see what it is. But right now we're just going to call this, Why Aren't These Movies Available on Blu-ray? But before we begin, at the end of this video, if you like what you see, please consider giving me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe, but most importantly, please leave those comments below. Now, I understand that not everything can be available on Blu-ray. I'm a realist. I understand. Some things are out on, are not available for a multitude of reasons. Like this one, for instance, Blue Thunder. This was available on Blu-ray at one point. It is now out of print here in the States. You can still get it on the secondary market for about $30. And then you've got other movies along those lines, like Dogma, directed by Kevin Smith. This was also released on a Blu-ray at one point, which is now out of print. It's going for about $75 to $100 now, if you're lucky. There's a story behind why this one's not available. I'm going to do that on a future video. But I just wanted to include this as an example. And then you have these two movies from John Woo, The Killer and Hard Boiled. As you can see, I have them both. And again, these were both available at one point on Blu-ray. However, they are out of print. And if you want to get a decent copy here in the States on the secondary market, each one's going to cost about $50, $60. But this one's probably the most egregious. This is just insane. 9 to 5. One of the biggest hits of 1980. Rest in peace, Dabney Coleman, who just passed away recently. As you can see, this DVD is sealed. It hasn't even been opened yet. I just found this at the Goodwill store recently. This was released once, as far as I know, on Blu-ray from Twilight Time, which is now out of business. I checked before this video on eBay. There are two listings right now for the Twilight Time Blu-ray of 9 to 5. Both of them are used, by the way. One was $129, the other one was $175. Insanity. And those are just for the movies that are out of print. Now let's talk about movies that have never gotten a Blu-ray release. We're going to start off with By Dawn's Early Light. This is a great film directed by Jack Shoulder. As you can see, there's the cast right there, in addition to Darren McGavin and a bunch of other great actors. And this was originally an HBO movie. And again, it's a fantastic film. No Blu-ray. Kind of like with this one, Full Eclipse. I just got this one on DVD as well. And again, this is an HBO movie. So I can almost understand why these two movies never got a Blu-ray. It's understandable. But it doesn't mean that I wouldn't like to have them on Blu-ray, especially By Dawn's Early Light, okay? But again, just wanted to use those as examples. But the rest of these, I want somebody to explain why. Okay. The first one is All of Me, starring Steve Martin and Lily Tomlin, and directed by Carl Reiner. This was like the fourth collaboration between Carl Reiner and Steve Martin, and it's the best. This movie's absolutely hilarious, and it was a big hit at the time. And as you can see, it was released by Kings Road and on video, Trimark. There are Kings Road and Trimark titles that are out on Blu-ray on the Vestron line and on the Kino line. Where's my Blu-ray of All of Me? And that brings me to Touchstone. If you don't know what Touchstone is, Touchstone and Hollywood Pictures were offshoots of Disney. They wanted to release non-family oriented films back in the early 80s, and they figured that if they released anything that wasn't animated or a family comedy under the Disney banner, people wouldn't take it seriously. So originally they invented Touchstone Films, and after those took off, they had another offshoot called Hollywood. Okay? Here's some Touchstone titles that I have on DVD that have never, ever gotten a Blu-ray. The 13th Warrior, which is a great action movie from John McTiernan, I'm sorry, starring Antonio Banderas. Fantastic film. The Ref, which is probably my favorite Christmas movie ever. It is absolutely hysterically funny, and unfortunately, a lot of people have never heard of it. With Dennis Leary and Kevin Spacey, and it's a wonderful, wonderfully funny movie. Speaking of funny movies, Ruthless People. Now, this movie was a huge hit that year that it came out, in I believe either 87 or 86 or 87. And it was one of the biggest comedies of that year. One of the top 10 films of that year. And it's probably my favorite Danny DeVito and Bette Midler film. I mean, this movie's hysterically funny. But this one I probably want more than any of them. Shoot to Kill. And I know in the UK this movie's called Hot Pursuit or something like that. Something Pursuit. A couple of my viewers over in the UK responded, said that this movie was titled something else. But again, this movie was a big deal when it came out. I worked at the theater when it came out, and the big deal about it was that Sidney Poitier made his reappearance on screen for the first time in like 20 years. He kind of retired from acting for 20 years and was doing activism, and then he was also directing. And this movie's great. This movie is fantastic, okay? But again, never gotten a Blu-ray release of any kind. Here's what else never gotten a Blu-ray of any kind from Touchstone Films, and I'm not even including the Hollywood films. Splash. You can get an import, out of print import, that's running for about $75. The rest of these have never gotten one. Down and Out in Beverly Hills, Outrageous Fortune, Tin Men, Stakeout, even though the sequel did. Can't Buy Me Love, Three Men and a Baby, and Three Men and a Little Lady, Turner and Hooch, What About Bob, Medicine Man, Encino Man, Captain Ron, Alive, Distinguished Gentleman, What's Love Got to Do with It, Quiz Show, which was nominated for Best Picture, Open Range with Kevin Costner. If you can't sell a Kevin Costner Blu-ray, a Western, you're not doing something right. In The Village from M. Night Shyamalan, which was a big hit. Now, Touchstone has released movies on Blu-ray. Here's Crimson Tide. And as you can see, Hollywood Pictures. It's got a Blu-ray. Apocalypto. Touchstone Pictures. It's got a Blu-ray. And before you say, well, hey, these two Blu-rays are out of print. Yeah, they've both been re-released in different versions. But okay, if you want to go that route, how about My Science Project? Touchstone Pictures released on Kino Lorber. Here's a movie from the 80s. Here's one from the 90s. Here's one from the aughts. All of these are from the 80s, 90s, and aughts. And some of those other ones I mentioned were huge hits. I mean, what about Bob? Are you trying to tell me that wouldn't sell? So anyways, Disney has licensed out all of their physical media from this point on to Sony. Now, I don't know if that means all of their movies going forward or if they're just giving them carte blanche for everything. And if that's the case, then people need to get a hold of Sony and start talking and getting them to start releasing some of these movies. Because again, this is ridiculous. How come there is a 4K of the Human Centipede out there somewhere, but I can't get a Blu-ray or Ruthless People? Are you kidding me? Okay, that's it for this video. I know it's not very organized. I've been trying to come up with the best presentation for this because this has been bugging me for a while. But if the views are good and the feedback is good, I'm going to do more movies along these lines because trust me, I've got a lot of films that need a Blu-ray or a 4K Blu-ray release. So if you like this, please give me a thumbs up, a possible subscribe. Most importantly, leave those comments below. Have a great night. We'll see you on the next one.